The millionaire with Alzheimer's is shocked after a child reveals his hidden fortune. The crisp autumn air hung heavy in the quiet suburban neighborhood, leaves crunching underfoot like whispered secrets. James Harrison sat on his porch, hands trembling slightly as he stared out at the golden hues fading into dusk. Once he was sharp, a titan of business who controlled empires with ease. Now his thoughts slipped away like water through fingers, memories blurring into shadows. The weight of confusion pressed on his chest, tighter with every passing second. He tried to recall the names, the places, the numbers that meant everything, but they all floated just beyond reach. Then, out of the silence, came a voice, clear, unexpected. A small figure, a girl no older than 12, stepped onto the lawn next door. Emma, new to the street, fresh and curious, with eyes far too knowing for her age. She smiled wide. But there was something else, something sharp in her. That secret place where you keep more than just money. Her words hung like a thunderclap. James blinked. What did she mean? Safe code? Secret place? He opened his mouth, but the name, the location, anything, escaped him. Her voice dropped low, almost a whisper. You hid a fortune years ago, the one you thought no one knew about. The street seemed to fall into silence around them. A dry wind stirred the maples, leaves spiraling like ghosts. James's heart hammered in his chest, the pulse thundering in his ears. How could this child know? He hadn't told a soul, not even his closest trusted aides, not for decades. His mind recoiled. Panic wedged between fragments of memory as a lump rose in his throat. The cold sweat on his brow prickled like tiny needles. Suddenly, everything he'd struggled so hard to keep, to protect, felt dangerously exposed. And through the mist of fading recollection, shadows from his past stirred. Dark figures, threats whispered in old phone calls, secrets better left buried. Emma didn't blink. I know where it is, but you need to find it before they do. Her words sliced through the quiet like a razor. James stood, body stiff, hands clutching the railing. Fear roiled in his gut. Who was this girl? How did she become the key to a puzzle he couldn't piece together? Was she a friend, or something far more dangerous? The autumn sun dipped lower, casting long, twisting shadows against the neat houses. The fortune, hidden long ago to escape greedy eyes, became a beacon, pulling James into a spiral of doubt and urgency. His mind, already slipping, wrestled with the impossible, trusting a mysterious child who held the final thread of his crumbling legacy. And as twilight swallowed the street, one dreadful question burned hotter than the fading warmth. Who was Emma really? And how much did she truly know about the man James Harrison thought he had left behind? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just quickly check that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming. The sun dipped lower. the long shadows stretching thin across the quiet street. James stood frozen, his breath shallow, eyes locked on Emma. The girl's sharp smile didn't waver. She seemed so small, but tonight she held all the power, all the secrets. Then the sound shattered the moment. A heavy crash from inside the house. The front door slammed open with a bang that rattled every window. A man burst out, face twisted in fury, eyes wild and desperate. He was tall, broad-shouldered, moving fast, but something else was wrong. His gaze wasn't on James. It was on the girl. "Emma!" the man yelled. His voice was harsh, edged with panic. "What do you think you're doing?" James's heart screamed. The air tightened, thick and cold. He didn't recognize the man, but the raw fear on Emma's face hit him like a fist. The girl stepped back, clutching a small notebook to her chest. Her hands trembled, just like his had only moments ago. The stranger stormed closer. "You don't belong here," he spat at Emma. Then his eyes flicked to James. "And as for you, you're in way over your head, old man." James stumbled back, grip slipping on the railing. His mind scrambled. What did this mean? Who was this man? Why was Emma so scared? Before he could speak, Emma's voice broke through, strong but shaking. "You lied to me. All those stories. You took everything. And you promised you'd keep me safe." Her eyes flashed with something fierce, something dangerous. "But you lied." The man's jaw clenched. "It was for her own good. She doesn't know what's real anymore." James blinked hard. The pieces that had felt like shadows sharp-etched themselves into a nightmare. Emma, the child he thought was a stranger, was something else. "No," James whispered. "Emma, you're—" The man cut him off, voice now almost cruel. "She's your granddaughter. The one you erased." The ground seemed to shift beneath James. His world tilted. His chest tightened. Breath hitched. How had he never known? Never remembered? Emma looked away, her small shoulders shaking. "I came back because you need to know the truth. Mom's gone. They took everything from me. The fortune isn't just money. It's a ticket to the past you want to forget." James shook his head, struggling to breathe. His mind hurt. Memory and pain tangled, a jumble he couldn't unravel. And in that moment, a cold realization crashed down. The child holding his secrets wasn't an outsider at all. She was blood. Family cut out and hidden from a past darker than he'd ever dared to admit. Silence fell, thick and suffocating. The stranger's eyes hardened. "If you don't help her, they will find her, and then none of this will matter." James's hands curled into fists, knuckles white. The fortune wasn't just treasure anymore. It was a battleground, a warning, a fracture in the family he thought was lost. Emma looked up once more, voice barely a whisper. "Will you save me, Grandpa? Or will you let it all disappear again?" The street held its breath. The night closed in fast, swallowing the golden light, and beneath the fading warmth, only shadows melting into darkness. James faced a new, terrifying truth, one that could destroy everything he thought he knew about himself, about her, about their past. And just like that, everything changed. James's hands clenched tighter, trembling so hard he thought he might drop the railing. Emma's words sliced through the night air, sharp and raw. "Will you save me, Grandpa? Or will you let it all disappear again?" His breath caught, heart pounding like a frantic drum in his chest. For a moment, silence stretched out, thick and unbearable. The street, once calm, seemed to hold its breath with him. The shadows lengthened, swallowed by creeping darkness, wrapping everything in a heavy, suffocating blanket. Then, before James could answer, a sudden crack shattered the quiet. A bright flash erupted behind him. James spun around, eyes wide, panic searing through his veins. A car, screeching tires tore across the road. Headlights blared like spotlights in the dark. The vehicle slammed into the street lamp near the curb with a deafening crash, sending sparks spraying like fireflies. Emma screamed, stumbling back, clutching her notebook to her chest. The man who'd shouted at her a moment ago lunged toward the wreck, but James stood frozen, rooted to the spot. Before either could move fully, the passenger door swung open violently. A figure spilled out, someone James recognized, even amid the chaos. It was Sarah, his daughter. Blood smeared across her forehead, dark and sticky. Her eyes, wild and glazed, locked on Emma and then on James. She staggered, gripping her side, as if something deep inside burned and tore. The cold autumn air caught her ragged breath, turning it into clouds of desperate noise. "Dad!" Her voice cracked, low and trembling. Emma's face lost color. The fierce spark vanished, replaced by something raw, pain and heartbreak tangled together. James felt the ground shift beneath him again. His blood turned icy. He wanted to move, but couldn't breathe. Sarah dropped to her knees in the gutter, ignoring the wreckage and the stunned neighbors now peeking through their curtains. Somewhere, a dog barked. A car alarm started squealing. The world spun too fast. "Sarah, what happened?" James asked, voice barely a whisper. His legs shook. Every step felt impossible. She blinked hard, mouth opening and closing, like she needed to say everything and nothing. Then, in a breath as sharp as broken glass, Sarah said it. "I'm the reason Mom's gone. I—" The words caught again. Tears spilled down her cheeks, unshed for years. Emma fell to her knees beside her mother, reaching out with hands that trembled violently. James's mind shattered. All the puzzles he'd tried to piece together exploded in a storm of pain and confusion. "No," he gasped. "You're—" "No," Sarah interrupted, voice raw and jagged. "It was me. I was the one who called them. I set it all in motion." Emma's gaze snapped upward, eyes wide, stunned. The little notebook slipped from her fingers, landing in the leaves, forgotten. James felt like the ground had been yanked away. Betrayal slammed into him, harder than any sickness. The man shouting outside, the strangers lurking in his mind, were small pieces in a far uglier picture. The family he'd tried to bury was rotting beneath the surface, bleeding secrets darker than Alzheimer's could steal. Sarah's lips trembled. I never wanted you to remember. I had to erase you to keep her safe. Her eyes locked on James, desperate, broken. The street around them held a shaky silence. A siren wailed in the distance, growing louder, and then the front door of James's house creaked open slow. Another figure stepped out, a woman, tall, cold, her gaze sharper than the night, and she smiled. "Dad," she said softly, "or should I say, Mr. Harrison?" James froze, because standing there, like a ghost from his forgotten past, was the woman he'd thought had died years ago. His wife, alive. And the secrets weren't just in the past. They were alive, breathing, waiting. The night tightened around them, thick and endless, and James realized nothing was as it seemed. Who was she really, and why had his memories betrayed him so completely? Emma whispered, voice thin with fear, "We're not just fighting for a fortune. We're fighting for truth and survival." James looked from Sarah to the woman who had just appeared, eyes wide with shock. The woman took a slow step forward. Her smile grew colder. "Welcome home, James. It's time you remembered everything." The street held its breath, and everything changed. The woman stepped forward, her eyes sharp as knives in the fading light. James's chest tightened, breath catching in his throat. The air seemed heavier now, charged, like a storm ready to break. "Welcome home, James. It's time you remembered everything," she said again, voice low and slow, dripping with something cold. Command, maybe, or a warning. James stared, mind scrambled. Sarah's shaky sobs echoed behind him. Emma clutched her notebook, face pale as paper. Then, a sudden loud click. Everyone froze. It came from James's pocket. He hadn't even noticed, but the old cell phone, buried under his loose jacket, buzzed to life. Hands trembling, he pulled it out. The screen blinked wildly, an incoming video call. No caller ID. He frowned, then hesitated. Something didn't sit right, but he pressed accept. The screen flickered, static, crackling loud, and then a face appeared. Not one James expected. A man. Young, clean-cut, with eyes sharp and cold like ice, and a grin that didn't reach them. "Dad," the man said, with a cruel smile that stretched too wide. "Or should I say, James, you've been asleep for a long time. Time to wake up." James's eyes narrowed, confusion flooding him. The man's voice was familiar, haunting, but how? "I know what you're hiding," the man continued, voice low, dangerous. "This whole story, the fortune, the family, it's not what you think. Emma gasped behind him. Sarah's sobbing stopped mid-breath. The woman, James's wife, stepped back, eyes darting. The street fell into a hush. Then the bomb dropped. "James," the man said, voice cold as steel, "you're not really James Harrison." Air left James's lungs. "Not your father, not your husband, not the man you've been dreaming you are." James blinked, heart pounding. The world tilted. "No," he croaked. "That's not possible." The phone screen suddenly flickered, then changed. Now it showed photos, old, faded, but horrific. James saw himself, or rather, someone who looked almost like him, but wrong. A stranger in the frame. Next to that stranger, a younger version of the man on the phone. And a woman, gone. The man's voice cut through the silence again. "You aren't who you think. You were implanted. Your memories fabricated. Alzheimer's didn't steal your past. It was built to hide it." James's hand shook, the phone slipping from his grip. He tried to shout, but no words came out. Emma stared, wide-eyed, mouth half open. Sarah's face paled, lips trembling as she looked at James with a mix of horror and disbelief. The woman, his supposed wife, stepped forward again. "It's true," she whispered, voice cracking. "The real James Harrison died years ago. We've kept you alive in a cage of lies." A neighbor, now peeking from behind curtains, gasped. "Who is he?" Someone whispered from across the street. James felt his skin crawl. His world, the family, the fortune, all a lie. "But who am I?" James's voice was barely audible, trembling like a weak flame in wind. The man on the screen smiled again, merciless. "You're a secret, a project, the last piece in a game bigger than any fortune or family. And if you find the truth, they'll come for you." Suddenly, the screen went black. The heavy silence that followed was broken only by James's ragged breaths and a single whispered question, one that hung in the cold night air, like a ghost. "Who am I really?" James's breath hitched, his chest tight like a steel trap. The phone slipped from his trembling fingers, clattering onto the porch. The darkness pressed around him heavier than before. "Who am I really?" he whispered, voice barely there. But before anyone could answer, a sudden sharp bang echoed from inside the house. The front window shattered, glass spraying across the porch like tiny stars. Instinct froze him. Emma shrank back, clutching her notebook closer, wide-eyed. Sarah gasped, jaw dropping, her fingers curling into fists that trembled uncontrollably. From the broken window, a figure stumbled out. A man. No, something more twisted than that. His face was James's, identical, same gray eyes, only colder, emptier. His clothes were torn, smeared with dirt, and something darker. He collapsed on the porch steps, gasping, eyes darting wildly between the group. "Dad," Sarah's voice cracked. No one moved. Then the man coughed, voice rough and broken. "I'm the real James Harrison." Silence slammed into them. The words hit like a fist. James, the man on the porch, looked up slowly. His lips twitched in a weak, bitter smile. "They said I was dead, but I'm not." Emma's mouth fell open. The woman, his wife, stepped back, a flicker of terror flashing in her eyes. James stumbled backward, chest pounding. His knees felt weak. "What? What do you mean? How? Who are you?" The other James wheezed, struggling to sit up. "I was taken, erased, kept locked away while they built this." He gestured at James, at himself, a copy, a shell. "Everything you know, lies. I was the one they wanted to disappear. You're just a ghost wearing my face." A neighbor gasped from behind the curtains. A dog barked loudly nearby. The chill air crackled with tension. Sarah sunk to her knees, sobbing hard. Emma's notebook slipped to the ground, forgotten. James's mind shattered again. Pressure exploded inside his skull, memories crashing like broken glass. No, that can't be. You're a shadow," the real James said. Voice low and raw. A puppet they control with lies and pills. "Your so-called memories? Manufactured. You never lived the life you remember." The wife's breath hitched, eyes filled with pain and fear. "I kept them safe. I kept you safe." "But at what cost?" the real James spat. "I was trapped in a dark world, watching my own life stolen. And now you're trapped too. Unaware, you're no one." James fell to his knees, heart pounding as if trying to burst out. The cold autumn wind bit into his skin, leaving him shivering. "Emma," the real James said softly, eyes flicking to the girl. "She's not just your granddaughter. She's the key, the one who remembers what you can't." The younger James's eyes flickered with tears. "We were all betrayed. Family turned into prisoners of a cruel secret." Suddenly, the woman stepped forward, voice trembling, barely a whisper. "The fortune. It's not money. It's data, proof, a weapon against them." James's head spun. This wasn't just an inheritance anymore. It was a war. The street outside seemed to close in, neighbors holding their breath, whispers growing in the night. The real James looked to Emma, then back to the one who called himself James Harrison. "You have to choose. Embrace the truth or stay a lie." James's hands trembled. His heart ached raw. The man who wore his face, the one he thought he was a stranger. And the stranger who said he was real shattered everything. A long silence fell. Emma whispered, voice breaking, "Who is he really?" And in the cold night's hush, The only answer was the slow, chilling creak of the front door swinging wide open. Then, a slow, terrible smile crept across the real James's face. This game isn't over. And somewhere, deep inside, James knew the nightmare was just beginning. The front door creaked wide open. A slow, terrible smile stretched across the real James's face. This game isn't over. The night air thickened, charged with fear. James's knees shook. Emma's small hands tightened around her notebook. Sarah's breath hitched, her sobs never quite leaving her lips. Then, silence, sharp as glass. Suddenly, a new sound shattered the stillness. Shouts, frantic, heavy boots pounding down the sidewalk. Lights flashed, red and blue, slicing through the darkness. Neighbors peeked out, whispers swirling like a storm. Before anyone could move, a figure burst from the shadows behind the porch. A tall man in a dark coat, his face hidden beneath a hood. He raised a gun. "Stop!" His voice cracked like a whip. James froze, heart slamming. Emma gasped, stepping back, eyes wild. The man's finger tightened on the trigger. But then, something nobody expected. A piercing scream ripped through the night. From inside the house, all heads whipped toward the broken window. Sarah bolted past the man, disappearing into the dark hall. "Sarah!" Emma shouted. But the hall swallowed her voice. The stranger snarled, turning to follow with furious speed. James stumbled after him, but caught himself. His mind reeled. This wasn't just a standoff. It was chaos, wrapped around a nightmare. A sudden, metallic clang echoed behind him. He spun. The door to the basement swung open. From the darkness, a figure fell forward. It was the woman, the wife. Her eyes wide and wild, her breath shallow. Blood trickled from a cut on her temple. "My God," James whispered. She tried to speak, but only a croak escaped. Then, with a trembling hand, she pulled back something from beneath her jacket, a small, battered badge. "FBI," she said, voice nearly gone. All color drained from James's face. The real James hissed, stepping back, eyes flashing. The stranger lowered his gun, eyes narrowing. "Does that explain a lot, huh?" the wife said, voice gaining strength. James's mouth opened, closed. Then words hit him hard, worse than any blow. "You were never my wife." Her glare cut through him like ice. "No, I was an agent, sent here years ago to watch over the Harrison legacy, to control it." Emma's hand flew to her mouth, breath caught. Sarah stumbled out of the hall, face pale and staring. "Control it? For what?" James demanded, voice raw. The wife gave a small, bitter laugh. "For secrets, for power. The fortune? It's a key, not to money, but to something bigger. A weapon buried in data, in technology no one understands." The real James stepped forward, voice quiet, but deadly. And we've then puppets, fakes, pieces on a board we never saw. James shook, his whole body trembling. No more lies, the wife said, voice steady now. They created you, both of you, to protect that weapon, but it got out of control. Then, suddenly, her face changed. Panic flooded in. They're coming. They know you're awake. Outside, a low rumble turned into distant explosions. A second later, a swarm of dark SUVs pulled up, tires screeching on the asphalt. Sirens blended with crashing glass, shouting. Emma grabbed James's arm. "We have to move," she whispered. Glanced at the two men who shared his face. The woman who wasn't really his wife. The daughter who carried too much pain. And the shaking girl who knew too much. His heart thundered. Everything was falling apart, faster than he could catch. Then, the truth slammed into him, colder than the autumn wind. None of them were safe. Not from those outside. Not from the past. Not even from each other. And in the eerie glow of flashing lights and chaos, James whispered, broken and raw, "Who can I trust?" But no one answered. Only the night closed around them tighter. And somewhere in the dark, a quiet voice whispered, "This was never about a fortune. It was never about family." Then, silence. And the nightmare? Just beginning. The night swallowed the street, thick and dark. Sirens screamed closer, cutting through the cold air. Lights flashed wildly, painting every face in red and blue. James's hands shook, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Emma's grip tightened on his arm, sharp and desperate. "Who can I trust?" he whispered again, the question hanging like smoke. No one answered. The silence broke with pounding footsteps, fast and heavy. Shadows shifted behind the porch. A man stepped forward, tall, face hidden beneath a dark hood. His voice was rough, urgent. "Stay where you are!" he barked. James froze, heart thudding loud. Emma's eyes went wide, breath hitching. But then, a scream ripped through the house. Everything snapped. The man hesitated, then bolted toward the broken window. "Sarah!" Emma shouted, but her voice vanished in the roar of chaos. James staggered after them, mind spinning faster than his legs could move. It all tumbled, a nightmare speeding out of control. Then a clang rang out, a heavy, sharp sound. James whipped his head. The basement door swung open. From the darkness collapsed a woman. Blood trickled down her temple. Her eyes were wide, wild in the fading light. "My God," James breathed. She tried to speak, but only a hoarse croak came out. With trembling fingers, she pulled away a badge pinned beneath her jacket. "FBI," she whispered. The world tilted. James's breath caught in his throat. The wife, the woman he thought he'd lost forever, wasn't just some ghost from his past. She was a secret. The real James took a step back, eyes sharp, Wary, the man with the gun lowered it slowly, his gaze narrowing. "Does that explain a lot?" the woman said, her voice gaining strength. James's mouth opened, closed. The words hit harder than any blow. "You were never my wife." Her glare froze the blood in his veins. "No, I was sent here, an agent to guard the Harrison legacy, to control it." Emma's hand flew to her mouth, breath caught tight. Sarah stumbled out of the hall, pale and shaking. "Control it? Why?" James demanded, voice raw and trembling. The woman let out a bitter laugh. "For secrets, power, the fortune. It's not money. It's a key to something bigger, something dangerous." The man who claimed the real James steeled his eyes, voice low but deadly. "We've been puppets, acted out roles we never chose." James shivered, every bone aching. "No more lies," the woman said, voice hardened. Her face shifted suddenly. Panic flared. "They're coming. They know you're awake." Outside, distant rumbles turned to explosions. The street pulsed with chaos. Dark SUVs roared up, tires screaming on pavement. "Move," Emma hissed, pulling James's arm. James glanced at them all. The two men with his face, the woman who wasn't his wife, the daughter crushed by secrets, the girl who held pieces none of them could see. His heart thundered in his chest. The world was breaking apart faster than he could hold on. And then the truth slammed into him, colder than the biting wind. None of them were safe. Not from the attackers, not from the past, not even from each other. The night air thickened, closing in tight. James whispered, voice cracking, raw. "Who can I trust?" The silence stretched, heavy as lead. Suddenly, a sharp crack. The air exploded with a sound like shattering glass. Everyone spun toward the porch. There, standing under the flickering streetlight, was a small figure. Not Emma, not Sarah, but a boy. Maybe 16, thin and pale, eyes black and empty. Dark pools that swallowed light. He stepped forward slowly, hands out like a ghost. "I'm sorry," he said, voice soft but chilling. James's breath stopped. The brother, the one he never knew he had. The missing son who vanished long ago, erased from every record, forgotten by every heart. The boy's eyes locked onto James's. "I carry the truth you can't face." The street fell silent, neighbors frozen, whispers catching in their throats. Emma's face went cold. Sarah gasped sharply. The FBI woman took a step back, eyes wide. The real James clenched his jaw. James felt his world break apart again. The boy smiled, a slow, terrible grin. "I'm the reason everything started." And then he reached into his coat, pulled out a thin, sealed envelope. With a calm voice that shattered glass, he said, "This isn't just a family secret. It's a confession, and it changes everything." James's hands trembled. His heart ached. His chest tightened. The night held its breath, because in that moment, the nightmare, the lies, the past, They all flipped inside out. And James realized, with icy horror, he didn't just lose his memories, he lost his entire life. And the truth? It was far darker than any of them ever dared to imagine. The boy held the sealed envelope steady, eyes fixed on James like he was the only thing left in the world. His voice dropped, quiet but sharp, cutting through the cold night like a blade. This isn't just a family secret. It's a confession. And it changes everything. James's hands shook hard, heart pounding so loud he thought it might burst. The street fell silent. Only the distant sirens hummed, a fading reminder of the chaos closing in. Then, suddenly, the boy dropped the envelope. It burst open on impact. Photographs spilled out, fluttering like fallen leaves. James's gaze caught one immediately. His own face stared back, smiling in a picture taken long ago. But below that was something else. A second photo. A cold, clinical shot of a man lying on an operating table. His face was covered in wires, tubes snaking into every part of him. And beside that, the boy's voice faltered, breaking the stillness. "That man isn't just you." James blinked, confusion and fear twisting his gut. What do you mean?" The boy's lips curled into an eerie smile. "You were never just a man, James." He took a slow, careful step forward. "Not a man at all." Eyes scanning the faces crowding around him, the cold truth spilled out. "You're a machine." Gasps broke out. Neighbors pulling back behind their curtains whispered fast. Sarah's face went pale, hands trembling uncontrollably. Emma's breath caught, her grip on the notebook tightening like a lifeline. James stumbled, fingers clutching the porch rail as if to hold himself upright. The boy's voice dropped lower. "They took your body. They wiped your mind. They didn't just create a copy. They built a new you." James's chest convulsed, breath shallow. A lump rose, choking the words in his throat. "Built a machine?" he whispered, barely able to say it. The boy nodded. Programmed memories, artificial emotion, controlled pain. A loud crack shattered the night air. Lights flickered. The street lamp nearby sputtered and went dark. Suddenly, James' knees gave way. He collapsed to the porch, sweat cold against his skin. His vision blurred. The edges of his world slipped like smoke. "Why?" he gasped, voice cracking. Raw, the boy crouched beside him, voice soft but merciless. "To keep a secret alive, to protect the weapon hidden in your mind." James's mind reeled. He saw flashes of images, of sterile rooms, machines humming low. He thought of the memories that felt like dreams. The past slipping away, not stolen by illness, but planted, fabricated. Around them, the crowd grew restless. Whispers turned to murmurs. Is he human? Is this some nightmare? Sarah's sobs filled the void. Emma's small hand found James's trembling one. For a moment, something fragile sparked. Hope, maybe, or fear. Then the boy stood again, eyes blazing. But here's the truth no one wants to face. He reached deeper into his coat, pulled out a small device, cold, metallic, blinking faint red. This is the kill switch. The quiet that followed was worse than screams. James's breath hitched. The real James, the one claiming to be the true man, stepped forward. Tension snapped like a wire. "Turn it off," the real James said, voice low and fierce. "Now." The boy's smile twisted. Too late. Suddenly, the device beeped louder. James's heart hammered, pain flaring sharp and sudden through his chest. His vision darkened fast. Emma screamed, dropping to her knees. Hands clutching his shoulder, she pleaded, "No, you can't!" The world plunged into shadow. Silence fell, thick, suffocating. Then a faint pulse, rhythmic, mechanical, throbbed beneath the silence. James's eyes fluttered open. Not in his house, not on his porch. He lay in a cold, white room. Metal walls reflecting harsh light, and above him, wires hooked into every inch of skin. A single voice spoke, calm and distant. "Welcome back, Subject 47. James's breath hitched, chest tight. "Who am I, really?" And the question hung there, empty and heavy. Because now, nothing was real. Not the past, not the family, not even himself. The nightmare had just become much worse. James's eyes fluttered open, the cold white ceiling above blurring into focus. His chest tightened, the steady beep of machines echoing in his ears. The wires, pinned to his skin, felt like chains, pulling him back from a nightmare he never wanted to wake from. "Welcome back, Subject 47. The voice was flat, distant, not human, not warm. James swallowed hard, lungs burning. Who am I really? The question hung, heavy and raw. Suddenly, the door hissed open. Bright light spilled in, too harsh, too sudden. A figure stepped inside, tall, cloaked in a white lab coat. Her face was calm, too calm. The kind of calm that scares you because it hides a storm. She smiled. A cold, sharp twist of lips. "Ah, you're awake! Excellent." James tried to sit up, but felt a hot sting in his arm. "Wait, what is this? Where am I?" The woman's eyes flickered, impatient. "You're safe, more or less, but it's time you learned the truth about yourself." He blinked, confusion twisting his gut. "I'm James, James Harrison, my family, the fortune." Her smile froze. She pulled a thin folder from her pocket, flipping it open with clinical precision. "You're not James Harrison. Not really." James's heart slammed, breath catching in his throat. Her voice dropped, steady and cold. "You are an experimental prototype, combining human consciousness with artificial intelligence. This facility has been running in secret for decades." He shook his head, trembling. "No, that can't be." She held up a screen. Images flickered. Body scans, Circuit boards fused with flesh, cold lab footage showing a broken man strapped down, wires crawling into his brain. You were never sick with Alzheimer's. Your memories were never yours. James's mind exploded. His hands clenched the sheets, fingers white as snow. But my daughter, Emma, Sarah. The woman's gaze hardened. They're part of the simulation. Programs designed to stabilize your mind. None are real. A crushing, suffocating silence swallowed the room. James's chest heaved, his eyes darted, panic rising like poison. Not real? None of it? Her smile darkened. Except the laboratory, and the truth that you're humanity's greatest mistake. The door slammed. Lights flickered. James scrambled, desperate now, fighting the numb pain crawling through his veins. Before he could move, a loud crack rang out. The wall beside the bed fractured like shattered glass. The voice came again, but different. Soft, familiar. James. He spun. Through the broken wall, a shadow leaned forward. A man. Same face, same haunted eyes. Only this time, the man's grotesque, twisted. Not flesh and blood, but wires and broken metal beneath torn skin. "I'm the original you," the figure whispered, voice warped and distant. James's breath froze. Heat shot through his spine. "You were copied," the figure said, limbs twitching unnaturally, fragmented into this machine. Tears blurred James's vision. "I am what you replaced." The lab woman stepped back, horrified, whispering frantic commands into a hidden mic. Alarms screamed to life. James reached out, breath broken and wild. "Who am I?" The mechanical doppelganger's hollow eyes locked with his. "You're the ghost in the machine." Suddenly, the entire room jolted. Power failed. The lights blinked out. Darkness swallowed everything. And in the silence, a cold, metallic voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. "This experiment has failed. Initiating purge." James's heart thundered. The nightmare wasn't over. It had only just begun. The lights snapped off. Darkness swallowed the room whole. James's heart pounded like drums in his chest. Cold sweat slicked his skin. His breath hitched, short and sharp. Machines went silent. The air hung thick, too thick, and then a low hum grew, twisting into a jagged, electric roar. The door blew open like a gunshot. The real James, half man, half machine, stepped forward, eyes burning with raw desperation. "This ends now," he growled, voice uneven but fierce. James, the copy, barely breathed. His legs shook, hands gripping the sheets like lifelines. The lab woman, pale and shaking, backed away, whispering into a hidden mic. Alarms screamed louder. Then through the chaos, a soft sound broke the storm. Emma's voice, clear, steady. "Grandpa, we're not just fighting to survive. We're fighting to wake you up." James blinked. Her small hand reached out, brushing his clammy cheek. His chest twisted, a jagged mix of confusion and something like hope. In that moment, the copy's mind screamed for breath, faces blurred, memories fractured, and a spark ignited deep inside, a flicker of something real. The real James lunged toward the kill switch, metal fingers stretched out. But before he touched it, the lights flickered back on, harsh and blinding. A surge rippled through the room. The device sparked and fizzled, dead. Silence crashed down. The lab woman gasped, frozen. James gasped too, breath ragged, eyes wide. "I'm here," he whispered. The real James staggered, a strangled cry forgotten in his throat. Then, outside, sirens faded. Footsteps rushed in waves. The door stormed open. Armed figures, government agents, flooded in, faces hard, eyes scanning. "We've got the target," one barked. "Secure the area." Sarah appeared, crying but steady. Emma clung to James's side, heart pounding together in one frantic beat. "No more lies," James croaked, voice breaking. "No more shadows." The agents moved fast, but James felt something shifting inside. A breaking of the cage, a shattering of chains. The real James spoke, voice low and raw. "It's over. Or maybe it's just the start." A sudden silence fell, heavy like a storm ready to break. Neighbors pressed their faces to windows, whispers rising like ghosts through the cold night. James looked around at the fractured family, his fractured self, and then into Emma's steady eyes. "I don't know who I am," he said, voice trembling. "But maybe that's the first real truth I've had." Her hand tightened in his. Outside, the sun waited just beyond the horizon. Light stretched, soft and unsure. And still, the question hovered, thick and alive. Who am I really? The nightmare had cracked open, but the story, it was far from done. That substance, only darkness, will not be done all the way. Exclusive stories coming up. No hesitation. It seriously helps fight the algorithm and keep these stories alive for you. Flood the comments with your reactions and wild theories about how it all ended. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the truth unfold. Real fans know how much power lies in these actions. So come on, make your mark. We're just getting started.